Hello and welcome to another episode of CSEC Math with Sir Kumar. In today's episode, we would be looking at solids. We would be looking at the definition of what is a solid, and we would go into the properties of some of the solids that we would be focusing on the next two episodes to come. And we're going to make the nets of those solids today. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. In today's lesson, we will be focusing on the properties and nets of the solids. So some of the solids we will be focusing on today are, you have the cube, the cuboid, the cylinder, the triangular base prism, or we call it the wedge. You have the cone and you have the sphere. So now we're going to go into each one of these shapes. We're going to give you a diagram of what the shape looks like, and we're going to state the properties of each shape followed by the net, using the net to make each one. The first shape we would be looking at would be the cube. So the properties of a cube, the first one, it has 6 faces. Second one, it has 8 vertices. The third one, it has 12 edges. And the fourth one is that each face is a square, hence all the edges are of equal length. And if you look here, we have a cube. So the 6 faces, each one of this part, like the front, the back, you have the 2 sides, the top and the bottom. So those are the faces. So the front and the back is 2 sides, that's 4, and the top and the bottom would give me a total of 6 faces. It has 8 vertices, so the vertex would be the points. So if you check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 vertices, singular vertex, plural vertices. Number 3, it has 12 edges. So this is an edge. So each one of these faces carry 4. So you have 4 here, 4 at the back, and then the sides would also be 4, which gives me a total of 12 edges. And if you notice, each face is a square, and the main property of a square is that all 4 sides are equal. So since it's a cube and it has 6 square faces, that means that each one of these edges would be the same length. So we would now look at the net. We're going to cut it out and fold it to make the cube, and you would see what the shape would look like. We're now going to make the nets of the solids, and some of the materials that you would need would be a sheet of cardboard. You have to get a ruler, a marker, glue, and a pair of scissors. So the first one we're going to look at is the cube. So here we have the net of a cube. So if you can remember from the properties, we said that the cube has 6 square faces, and if you look here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now when making the net of a cube, you have to ensure that each one of these lengths are the same. So if you could look here, I have this side is 3, and then if you come across, it is also 3. So make sure you have 6 perfect squares. Now the ends here, these are flaps. So when we finish cutting it out, this would help us to put the shape together. So let's cut it out and make the cube. So this is the net of the cube after you finish cutting it out. So what you have to do now is that each one of these lines, you have to fold the shape. So we start, so we crease there, then we come on this one side and we do the same. And then we fold here. And then we fold here. Now these are all the parts folded. The flaps that we have, we just fold the flaps off because we're going to need these flaps to glue it together. So just fold them in.
close that, right?
So all the ends are folded, all the flaps are folded, so let's start putting it together. So if you notice, if we fold here, and then you fold here, and then here, coming together, we have our cube, right? So let's start gluing it up. So the first thing we do is we apply glue to our flaps. So yeah, we apply glue to the flaps, and then you paste neatly, and you repeat this process for all the flaps that you have. So let's hold it like this for a few minutes, a few seconds, just to get the glue. And there you have it. So if you notice, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 edges, and we have 8 vertices. So this is the cone, sorry, this is the cube, and this is how it looks after you use the net and you put it together. The second shape we would be looking at is the cuboid. So the properties of a cuboid: 1, it has a length, a width, and a height. 2, it has 6 faces. 3, it has 8 vertices. 4, it has 12 edges. And 5, each face is a rectangle, hence opposite sides are equal and parallel. Now here you have a cuboid. The length would be the longest side, the width is how wide our shape is, and the height is how high the shape is. From our cube, the edges would be the lines, so you have 4 at the top, 4 at the bottom, and 4 to the sides. That gives me my 12 edges. Each point is a vertex, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices, and the face would be each side of the cuboid, which we have 1, 2, the 2 sides 4, top and bottom 6. Now the cuboid, each face is a rectangle, so that means the length here and the length up here would be the same. The width across here and the width across here would also be the same, and the height right away around would also be the same. So you have the 6 rectangular faces, and if you could remember from the properties of a rectangle, opposite sides are equal and parallel, and that's why they said opposite sides are equal and parallel. Now we would look at the net of a cuboid, and we're going to cut out and put it together to show you what the shape would look like. Here you have the net of a cuboid, and if you notice, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces. So each face is a rectangle. So we're going to now cut this out, and then we're going to put it together to make our cuboid. So let's start. So this is what the net of a cuboid looks like after we finish cutting it out. So at each one of these lines, we're going to start folding. So we fold in, increase, then you fold, After you finish folding all the ends, we then fold our flaps. Alright, so that's it. So if we just decide to put this together quickly, let me show you. So this is what it would look like. So let's just glue it up and put it together. So let's take this one off. All right, so let's start gluing. Let's hold it together. And here you have it. This is a cuboid. This is how it looks after you finish putting the net together. The third shape we would be looking at is the cylinder. So the properties of a cylinder: one, it has two identical parallel bases connected by a curved surface. Two, the bases are circular in shape. And three, the perpendicular distance between the bases, denoted by h, is the height. Now, if you look here, we have a cylinder. So the first thing we have is two bases, right? So both bases are circles and they are identical. So whatever is the diameter of this one, if this is 10, then the diameter of this one is also 10. And the distance between our two bases here is what we call the height, the perpendicular height. Because if you draw, if I add let's say the radius across here, then the height in this radius becomes a right angle. So this is what we call the perpendicular height. It's either given on the outside, or sometimes you would see a line coming down from the centers in the middle here, and they would give you the height as well. Now, these are circles. Looking at it here, it looks like an oval, but we're going to go to the net and you're going to see exactly how the shape would look when we finish making it. So here you have the net of a cylinder, and we have our two circular ends and a rectangular middle that would come together to form the curved surface. So let's start cutting and putting this together. So here you have the net cut out. These would be our flaps. So let's start folding. Fold our flaps in to help hold the shape together. Now to get this, we have to roll our cardboard just to make it up, give it the shape. Then after putting it together, this is what it would look like. And these would be our circular base. And this is what the cylinder looks like after we put it together. The fourth shape we would be looking at would be the triangular base prism, or we call it the wedge. So the first one is, it has 5 faces. Number 2, it has 9 edges. Number 3, it has 6 vertices. Number 4, it has 2 triangular bases. And number 5, it has 3 rectangular faces. If you look here, you would see the wedge. Now, here you have a triangle, and at this end you also have a triangle. So the 2 ends would be our triangular bases. And if you look here, you have this shape is a rectangle. So that means you have 1 rectangle on this one side, 1 rectangle on the back here, and 1 rectangle on the bottom. So you have the 3 rectangular faces and our 2 triangular base. The edges go around and the vertex would be the points of the shape. So to get a better understanding of what this looks like, we're going to use the nets and we're going to make the shape so that you could see and understand. Here we have the net of a triangular base prism, or the wedge. And if you notice, we have 1, 2, 3 rectangular faces and our 2 triangles. 2 triangles would be our base, right? So 1, 2, 3 rectangles and 2 triangles. The additions would be our flaps. So let's cut this out and put it together to form the wedge, or the triangular base prism. So this is what the net looks like after we finish cutting it out. So now we're going to start fold and putting it together. So we folded all our lines. So let's start folding. And then we fold our flaps. So this is what it should look like when we finish. So let's start gluing it up. Let's take off one of this. Let's hold it together. And there you have it, the wedge, or we call it the triangular base prism. The fifth shape that we're going to look at is the cone, and some properties of the cone. 1, it has a circular base. 2, it has 1 vertex. 3, it has a curved surface. And 4, it has a perpendicular height and a slant height. Now if you look here, you have a cone. Everybody should know what a cone looks like, because it's exactly the same shape that you get when you go and buy ice cream. The cone. So the base, not the ice cream at the top, the base is the cone. So this is what it looks like. If we flip it up this way, it's just like you hold it and they put the ice cream in here. So here you have a circular base. This is a curved surface because this is going around our base and it meets at a point here where we call the vertex. Now when you're given these questions, you would have the radius in the middle, and here coming down they would give us our height, which is the perpendicular height. And there is also another height that they give you, and that other height runs from here to here at this end, and we usually call this our slant height. So when we go into our examples, you're going to see the application of our perpendicular height and our slant height and so on. So from this now, we're going to cut out the net of the shape and we're going to put it together so that you could see what it looked like, even though you already know, since majority of you had cone before. So here you have the net of a cone. This part is like the sector of a circle, and this is the part at the bottom that we're going to enclose our cone with. So let's cut this out and put it together. So there you have it. So let's start folding. So we fold this down, then we fold our flap, and then we try to put it together. So this is what it would look like. So let's try and tape it up. So there you have it. This is how the cone looks. The sixth shape we're going to look at is the sphere, and some properties of the sphere. 1, a sphere is perfectly symmetrical. 2, all the points on the surface are equidistant from the center. And 3, it has a constant width and circumference. And here you have what a sphere looks like. So for simple reasoning, it's a ball. So it's perfectly symmetrical. So if I cut the shape straight down in half, each half would be equal to each other. If I cut it in quarters, each portion would be equal to each other. All points on the surface are equidistant from the center. So this is the center. So any point that going from this center to the end, no matter which end we go to, they're all the same. They're the same length or the same distance. And then it has a constant width and circumference. Likewise, the width at any point in the shape is the same, which we say like the diameter. So straight across the shape, the width would be the same, and the circumference going anywhere around this sphere would also be the same. Now, there is a net available for the sphere, but when you put it together, it doesn't look like a sphere. However, we have an object, a ball, so we're just going to show you the ball so that you know exactly what a sphere looks like. The net of a sphere. On the screen, you're going to see what the net of a sphere looks like. In your own time, you're going to just draw it and cut it out and try to put it together. And when you put it together, this is what this sphere should look like. It's a ball. So any ball, when you finish putting that net together, you should get a ball. So that's your little assignment for today. To conclude today's lesson on solids, we've looked at the properties of solids and we went through 6 solids, that is the cube, the cuboid, the cylinder, the triangular base prism or the wedge, the cone and the sphere. And also we looked at the nets of the solids, that is the two-dimensional shape that we put together to form our shapes. Remember that you have a little task to do, that is to take the net of the sphere and cut it out, draw it, cut it out, and then try to put it together to see as if you would get the sphere.